wonderful week. And for those of you who have holidays this week, happy spring holidays. I know we have a few different cultures and religions who have holidays this week, so I hope you're enjoying those and having a wonderful time with friends and family. So this week we are starting a new little bit of a series. We're just gonna see how it goes, trying something new. May or may not work out over the next couple of weeks. More about that in a couple of minutes. Thought with the spring we might try something a little bit different. You never know, may or may not work out in the storytelling side of things. And maybe you guys can give me some feedback and see what you all think. And speaking of things that are new, last Saturday morning I did in fact launch the new Etsy store, and so we are officially welcoming Selkie Creative Designs over on Etsy. And to sort of kick that off, I did create new banners. I think that's what they're called, banners, I'm not entirely positive, over on the official Twitch page, if that's what they're called, pages I think. So if you're heading over there and you look at all our little boxes, they're all fresh, colorful, and new. So you'll see one for, of course, Instagram, YouTube, where I put all of our old streams just in case anyone likes to go back and look at the old stories. And then there'll be now one for our Etsy store. So if you click on that, it'll take you right on over and you can look at all of the awesome things we've put up there, including session journals, dice boxes, some potion bottles, all kinds of fun stuff for those of us who love to enhance a bit of our storytelling at the tabletop role-playing tables. I forgot what all the letters stand for. Wow, it must be Friday. Okay, so yes, all of that's fresh and ready to go, and I hope you all will go check that out and see what's going on. I will admit, I haven't gotten over to YouTube yet, but that's because it tends to be a little finicky about updates, and I wanted to make sure that I had tons of time to go mess with YouTube, and that tends to be a Saturday chore. So tomorrow I'm going to go in there and make sure everything's nice and good and healthy on YouTube, and all the links are exactly where they should be and how I want them. Nice and fresh and spicy. Okay, so speaking of new and fresh and spicy, let's get back to our new little experiment that we're going to be trying this week and hopefully for the next couple of weeks. So I believe most of us have grown up on different fairy tales or folklore stories, but what happens when we twist things up and explore fairy tales from a different perspective? And that's what I'd like to do here tonight. So you may or may not guess what fairy tale, I hope I haven't given it away too much, we'll be exploring here tonight. But each week we're going to take a different fairy tale or folklore story, perhaps a myth, a legend, you never know, and twisting it around, turning it inside out and backwards, and seeing what we can do to turn that into a TTRPG story. And we'll go a little bit of a painting to go along with that, of course. We're not mixing things up too much, but we're going to create a little bit of a series and just see how far we go. And that should be fun. So for tonight, we're heading back into my favorite region, of course, the Sword Coast, because it's fun and it's good to start things off with something a little bit familiar. Along the Triboar Trail lies the small mining town of Phandelin. It's a sleepy town of little renown, if you don't count the robbers, goblins, orcs, and oh yes, that little matter of the Wave Echo Caves. But recently, there have been reports of strange animals out in the local woods. However, these reports can't possibly be true. After all, frogs don't chase visitors away. Or do they? And thus, our tale to be told begins thus. Now, it is quite the busy market day when you have headed back into the small mining town of Phandelin. Now, perhaps you have recently dealt with the situation over at Wave Echo Caves. Or perhaps you're in the region to try to help them out with that situation, and you're well aware that things have not been going well in the region lately. Either way, people in the town square are well aware of you, and perhaps are eager to help and at least pass around some rumors. And so it's no surprise when various stall owners and villagers come up to you and start to share some rumors. They tell you that there's been some strange happenings over in the local woods. Things like talking woodland beasts and frogs chasing away people. I wasn't kidding about that one. And other strange little things like the goblins haven't been staying in their local regions and the orcs are back on the warpath. We haven't had that situation happening since the whole spine of the world debacle. And, well, things are just getting a bit hinky in this region. You never quite know what's going to happen in the town of Phandelin, but certainly this isn't normal since the red brands were chased away. So you do agree to try to help them out. They may not be entirely eager for your help. After all, it does seem like their local town master isn't entirely happy with you lately. Not since the whole who's really in charge here situation. But, as always, they do give you the details that you really need to get things done. And so you head back out into the local woods and back onto the Triboar Trail. With their advice, you head north, up north towards the Wyvern Tor, that is. Well, you do think it's mostly woodlands here, and so far that does seem to prove right. Until you head into a bog? It's not supposed to be a bog here, is there? Well, it sure seems like there's a bog here right now. And whether or not that's something that used to always be here, perhaps you would like to roll for a bit of a history. If anyone's got a d20, let's find out if you remember that there's always been a bog or a marsh near the Wyvern Tor. If not, we'll just go with strange magical happenings. And while looking around, you hear a small, kind of scraggly voice go, "Get out of my swamp!" You look around, but you don't see anyone, and so you carry on. You do start to hear the little bit of a following you. Look around. "Get out of my swamp!" But you still don't see anyone. And so you carry on. After all, you were advised to go all the way up towards the Wyvern Tor. So that's where you're going to go, right? You keep walking. "Get out of my swamp!" Okay, really, what is going on here? There must be someone. You look up high. No, nothing in the trees. Well, at least nothing threatening. Just a few birds, some crows perhaps. I mean, those could be threatening, but they don't seem to be swarming. Nothing at eye level, no orcs, no goblins, no traps that you can see. You look a little bit farther afield. Wait, was that a flash of poison green you saw out there? It was. And getting a little bit closer, you realize, uh-oh, it's a frog. Could this be the frog that's been chasing everyone away? Hard to say. And so you go up to it and say, Frog, what are you doing here in this marshland? The frog responds, "Get out of my swamp." Now you start to wonder if perhaps it's something that just mimics. Maybe it heard that from someone once upon a time and is just mimicking that phrase over and over and over and over and over again. It happens after all. Isn't that what Kenku often do? So you try again. You get down on the ground. Ugh, it's squishy. But you do ask, "My dear frog, what are you doing here in this boggy marshland? Wouldn't you rather live near the streams?" And this is when the frog starts to look a little bit sad. She sighs, for it is a female frog, and says, "I was once a female among my people, a princess. But then some horrible, horrible human came around, and she stole the love of my life away. Did you know that if you kiss a prince frog, he transforms into an ugly human?" I didn't know that, but apparently it's true, and he can never be turned back. Because how could I possibly find him stuck in this marsh like this? Now get out of my swamp! And with that, she turns to try to hop away. But perhaps you stop her. Perhaps you offer some help. You are, after all, adventurers. You seem to be up to snuff to deal with the Wave Echo Caves, and that's no mean feat all by itself. You're trekking out to the Wyvern Tor, and that's no mean feat by itself. Perhaps you can lend her some assistance. If you do, she might turn back and say, "There's rumors of a crystalline ball that holds the sacred spring waters. They say, if you hold the ball and look in its depths, it will give someone true of heart their true heart's desires. But I could never find it, not as a frog. It's hidden somewhere, up in the mountains. Perhaps you would go get it for me? Would you go get it for me?" And perhaps you say yes. After all, who could resist the charms of a frog? Not one that said so nicely and asked for help. And so, you decide to go and search. You do in fact stop by the Wyvern Tor, as you were asked, but of course that's not where the frog is that's chasing away people. You do notice that the encampment is abandoned. Wasn't there usually orcs over there in the Wyvern Tor? Well, they're not there now. Nevertheless, you keep searching. And searching and searching and searching. And eventually, you come across a sacred spring. Now, there's a history here about these sacred springs. They say that if those are truly pure of heart, come to these sacred springs and bathe in them, they will find something they truly seek. But those who are not truly pure of heart, they will fall into a great folly. But which is which, and which are you? Perhaps you'll find out. Now these springs have bubbling golden waters, and they say that this is because once upon a time, 3 sister dragons came to bathe at these waters. Hearing rumors of the healing properties that could be given to them, they came here because they had lost their dragon's fire breath. And so they bathed. And when they bathed, their golden scales turned to silver white. And yes, their dragon's breath returned, but as ice. And thus, they became ice dragons. And they say perhaps these sister dragons still guard those springs still. You never know. That could be true, but not every rumor, not every legend holds truth to it. And so you travel to where these springs might be. Across the Robin Tor, back down southward towards Ice Spire Peak. And there you find the Golden Springs. And you decide amongst yourselves who will be the one to bathe. Who will be the one to try to find where, if anywhere, this crystalline ball might exist? Should it be the cleric? Surely a cleric is pure enough of heart to ask such a question. But perhaps instead it's the ranger. After all, don't rangers and druids spend much of their time protecting the wild places? Perhaps a paladin. After all, paladins must be pure of heart. They spend so much of their time deciding the right from the wrong and choosing the correct path. Who would you choose to go on this journey? Who are you going to choose to bathe in the waters? Put it in the chat for me. Who should be the one to step into the waters? The ranger, the cleric, or the paladin? I think we know I'm biased and I'm going to end up choosing the ranger. Okay. Well, it's true that I am biased, so perhaps you have chosen someone else, but for me, I do usually choose the ranger. And so they step into the waters, and almost immediately, a silvery white dragon appears from a nearby cave and roars at the party. Now, our cleric and paladin are prepared to attack. Silver dragons aren't those that should be messed with. They're not exactly the most pure of heart, but our ranger knows better. Turning towards the dragon, she whispers to it in Sylvain, trying to calm it and soothe it, explaining that they are friends, explaining that they merely have a question and seek its help, explaining that if this is not a place for them to be, they will leave in peace. After all, they are merely on a quest for a friend, seeking a crystalline ball that's lost. And, in time, the dragon listens, ceases its roaring, and pauses. And, with a puff of its icy breath, it does leave. And when it does, they notice that there's something left behind. Something that wasn't there before. A crystalline ball. Blue as the waters it was made from, sparkly and clear. It is in fact the magic item that they seek. They're able to take it and trek back towards the swamp near the Wyvern Tor. And there, the frog awaits. Get out of my swamp, wait. Is that the sacred ball? Could that be? And she reaches out one slimy little hand towards the ball and waits. You give it to her. and then she holds it in her hands, closes her eyes, and wishes deeply. At first, you feel like nothing has happened. You were expecting another frog to appear next to her. After all, wouldn't she want her true heart's desire to return to her? But then in a moment, she smiles. You notice the ball that has changed color. It's no longer the same blue as the waters. Its magic has been used up. But she has a smile on her face. She is at peace. You're tempted to ask her what she's wished for, but she's chosen to keep this to herself, at least for now. But you do notice that the swamp is starting to change. Its waters are no longer muddied and dirtied. Instead, it's starting to clear up. It's starting to turn a beautiful crystalline blue, almost as blue as the ball, the magical sphere that you retrieved for her. Now she can be the guardian of this new place. With a smile to yourselves, you return to Phandelin. There's plenty of other mischief for you all to take care of, but you have one mystery that you have solved. The mystery of the Frog Princess. Our tale ends there for now, and with that, we're going to take a short break. In the chat, let me know what you thought of our new story adventurers. I'll be back in a couple of minutes to set up our little art live scenario, and I hope I get to chat with you guys for a couple of more minutes, and then we will call it an evening after that. So 2-minute intermission or so, and then I will see you all soon. Hello, you guys. So how is everyone doing this week? I hope well. Sorry for looking down for just a couple minutes. I feel like this shirt is being weird. Sorry. I'm gonna put some music on here. There it goes. Okay, yes, it's picking up the music just fine. Okay, and I'm gonna turn that off so I can set this down without it doing weird things. Stay. Okay, excellent. All right. So I hope everyone's doing well this week. Got all the different holidays going on. I know normally this is the point where I'd show you all what we did last week, but I wasn't here last week. I was setting up the Etsy store, so we don't really have anything to show off at the moment. So instead, we can just talk about, weekend plans. Oh, good. You're having a good week, Cameron. Took it off. Yeah, I think it's spring break for a lot of people. I don't know about you guys, how you guys do spring break, but I think most of the school districts in California at least have spring break right now. I don't know about the rest of the United States, if they kind of do it around the same time, plan it around this holiday week, but yeah, it's kind of how it's doing. My week's been kind of odd, because I was cramming so much to get everything done for the Etsy store, and then I had no work afterwards, and then it was spring break, so I literally had no work. I had no proper work, like when you go to a job, and then I had no art related work. So I the next day I was just sort of twiddle thumbs. What am I doing with my life? The world will never know. I was so bored those first couple of days. I kept getting up to go do stuff, and then there was none. Anyways, sometimes you just don't have stuff to do. Okay, so I think I'm gonna start by kind of cleaning up these. That's the 14. Hold on, where's my 12? I feel like some of my brushes wandered off too. That's the other thing. Where's my 10? Urgh. And I totally didn't go to the art store like I was supposed to. I should have got you to pay. I totally would have too. Although I don't think I could have gotten, you'll understand when it arrives, I don't think I could have gotten a second picture. There's another painting in that envelope. You'll see what I mean when it arrives. It's a snug fit, which I think is good for security reasons. But it's just very snug in there. You want it snug though when you paint. You send stuff like that off. Canvas is so lucky. They can roll it up in those nice shipping tubes and know everything will be fine. But when you have to mail off things like watercolor, oh gosh, my brain is just can't have words right now. Watercolor paper, sorry, there's a fly. You just sort of put it in an envelope and hope for the best. There's no really alternative to that. So you just sort of make it as snug as you can, snug as a bug in a rug, so that things don't get all wonky on you. And then, fragile everywhere, because there's nothing else you can do about it. Yeah, shipping paintings is an interesting process, gotta say. I don't know how they do the big ones. I kind of want to know now. I obviously don't do the big ones. I'm more of a detail artist, but just fine. Hats off to everyone who can do the big ones. Lurk. Oh, hello. Welcome, new friend. You're more than welcome to lurk. I will admit, who was I talking to about this the other day? Oh, it was Tori Cameron. That we were up till midnight talking about this. That some people do like to lurk, and that's totally fine. Especially when you're doing art stuff or just watching someone play a game. Like, it's totally cool. Oh, yeah, I believe that. Those, especially if it was a canvas. Oops. I'm always shuffling things around. I probably shouldn't. Like, I don't think they're even for like a mid-sized canvas. I feel like it probably would need to be in a crate, especially if you were going to frame it. Even a watercolor, like if you were gonna, yeah, like you would have to put it in a crate. Although that's probably the safest way to do it. Like that thing is gonna, that's a tank. That thing is not going anywhere. Yeah. Totally safe to ship that. It's gonna be fine. But you never know about watercolors. I always feel sketch shipping art. I'm just like, dear art gods who art in heaven, please don't let the U.S. Postal Service be the U.S. Postal Service. Erg. Not that UPS and FedEx are necessarily any better, but I don't know. How are things in Canada? I'm curious. For those of you who are outside the US, do you consider your postal service people to be pretty good about certain delicate things? I don't know about other art mediums, whether or not like that makes a difference when it comes to shipping. I imagine our glassblower friends are probably very nervous about shipping their stuff. I can't even imagine. But like, how do you feel about your local shippers? Obviously, I'm very opinionated about mine. Just saying. But do you feel like overall, barring the occasional seasonal awkwardness, they do like pretty decent jobs, or you're just kind of like, I wish they did better, or yeah, don't really have an opinion? Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said for must be done quickly. In theater, we have the saying, you can have it done quickly, cheaply, or right. Pick two. And often I've found that's true in general for life. That things that are done right are not cheap or quick. And then things that are cheap are not done right or quickly. You really do have to like pick your battles, you know? Like what is most important here about stuff? And the art arriving in one piece, words really are hard tonight, is always going to be top priority. Like, end of discussion. Okay, so that was my rant for tonight. I always have like one. Apparently this week it's shipping art. Yes, I agree. I would much rather pay more to have it done right. Although, given lately how bad shipping fees have gotten, I'm like, oh, that's pretty bad. Like, I don't know if local tariffs have gone up significantly or like what, but that's pretty bad. I know these rocks just look like blobs. We're getting there. One of these days. Slowly, 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 slowly. Something weird hanging out on that side. Shouldn't have refunded you. That was actually the cheapest shipping fee for going to Canada that I've seen in a long time. So I kind of don't mind refunding you the shipping. Trust me, when it gets back up above $15 again, you're on your own. Like, serious about that. Bloop. Arg! I have all this, like, it's probably my hair, to be honest. I have, like, all this hair suddenly just chilling out. So weird. That's the other thing about spring break is I suddenly, like, don't keep... Oops, I think I just went under the art tape. Oh, well. As I suddenly don't, like, keep up with my usual routines. Not that I'm, like, a total slob, but, like... when you have curly hair, there's like certain routines you kind of have to do like every day to make it not look like a bee's nest or an afro or like a bird is nesting on my head. And I kind of just haven't been doing it because nobody's here. Who cares if it's a fuzz? But the downside is that is I do shed now like crazy. So that's probably what's happening is that now that I've like taken a moment to do my hair for all of you guys is now there's all this shed everywhere. Oops. Lessons learned. Sometimes the hard way. First shizzle happens, as they say. Because that hair was way too long to me, my rabbits. She's also shedding, by the way. It's that time of year where around here it like alternates between being like 55 to 60 during the day to like, oh, here's a random day of 80 degrees. And it kind of messes with her poor coat. She's like not sure if it's summer or not, so she goes through a shed. It's so funny. And she'll have like her proper summer shed in like July or August when we get like our proper summer weather in, because we won't have like regular hot days until like August, not around here. Well, that's because you're a dude. Sorry. Just trolling Cameron in the comments. Cameron, you can get away with more. I can't just shave my head off. Could you imagine if I went to school like that? Okay, I'm probably gonna have to make those more scraggly later. Dude, I'm from Southern California. Everything is dude. I'm dude, you're dude, that annoying toaster over there and Wyatt is not cooperating. It is definitely dude. So it's just a thing that we say. So I do work very hard not to say dude very often because I do understand that it's a regionalism and there are significant portions of not only the country but the entire planet who consider... Oh, Siri just popped up. Sorry, hold on here. I have to get rid of Siri, otherwise she's gonna start talking in the middle of... Go away! Sorry. Wow, can you guys hear her talking? Okay, please escape. There we go. Okay. Anyways, that was funny. So, but I do know that there's a good portion of the population that considers dude exclusively masculine instead of more of a gender neutral term. So I do work very hard to make sure I'm not using it. But every now and again it slips out. So it is what it is. Why not shave it off and wear a wig? Wow. I don't think it works like that. I would still have curly hair. It's just not there now. So I'd still have to like treat my scalp and stuff. I just now wouldn't have hair, and now I'd have to put a wig on every day. People are gonna look back at this and just be like, what is happening? And on that note, okay, sorry, so I get my laughter under control. Woo! Okay. So we do have a suggestion jar for any new friends in the chat who are listening to me, Cameron, talking about shaving our heads off. So, sorry, I need another second. Okay, so the suggestion jar is my like preset questions that I just pull something and then we like sort of talk about it. But of course, if anyone has any questions that they want me to answer, you can always throw it into the chat. Or we do have a suggestion jar on like the main Twitch page, or whatever they're called. And you can always throw questions in there, things you want me to talk about from the next session, things you wish I'd answered from the last session. Stream, sorry. Wow, okay. My brain is on like who knows what today. Maybe more coffee or less coffee, I can't decide. So yes, and I made a new tag for our jar. Look how cute. Little wow, jar tag. It says suggestion jar. I think that's cute. Okay, so let's shake her up and see what happens. Always more coffee. Yes, I don't know about that. I feel like if I'm self-medicating with coffee, I should maybe just like have the medication. Anyways. Okay, this is one of my favorite ones. What inspired this illustration? Okay, so we've got kind of like this bog turned water look. So this is the bog that we got to visit today near the Wyvern Tor. So I kept sort of the swampy look in the sky. The trees are obviously not quite done yet. Hopefully we'll get there tonight, but I want everything to be perfectly dry with the rocks and the river, more hair, before we get there, because I'm going to try a new technique and I just want to make sure that everything's copacetic, so to speak, before I'm just like, bleh. It's not quite like the leaves that I normally do. Here, I'm going to pull one of these. This is one of the dice boxes actually in the store, but this is kind of the leaf look that I normally do, where everything's sort of blobby. We'll go with blobby. And I want things to sort of like puddle and smear and get a little kind of like dents and not have like individual leaves going on. This time I want it to have more of like an individual leaf look. And for that to happen and look just right, I need it to be dry. So it really is sort of almost a dry on dry, like when you do with acrylic, but we're to do a wet onto dry ish. But it's a very dense watercolor paint. We're not gonna smear it, so to speak. So for that to happen, everything around it has to be dry, because if I want to put a leaf down here and this is still wet, even damp, it will bleed. Like you don't even know. Watercolor will just everything. So yes, we're just gonna let it sit for days if I have to. But yes, and then down here we've got this kind of like semi-crystalline creek river thing that's happening. So that's sort of like that crystal sphere magic item that we found slowly kind of trickling its way and transferring out of marshy bog into more of like a nice happy river zone. So yes, that's what did that. I'm gonna put that up here to show that I used that one. Since I haven't pulled one in a while, let's do another one. And of course, as always, feel free to throw things into the chat. Let's see. Okay. Ooh, okay. Well, I guess we can kind of do this one. Does my character have any unique features? Well, I would have to say that typically frogs in D&D 5e don't speak. At least not that I've been made aware of. The only similar species or creature I can think of would be a bullywug, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Some people say bullywog, but I see it's spelled with a W-U-G, so I usually say bullywug. They do speak, but only their own language. They don't speak any like spoken language a character would speak. They only speak bullywug. Bullywugs speak bullywug. So, and they're kind of like a humanoid frog toad creature. They're amphibious. I think it's kind of like a gray area which one they're modeled after. And then there's the Lococath. Can't ever pronounce their name. They're sort of like a hybrid fish frog creature. I can't remember what they speak, if anything. They might not speak, actually. I can't remember now. And I'm not entirely positive I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yes. But obviously, this frog that we worked with today spoke more or less correctly, barring flubs on my part. So yes, that would be a unique feature of this frog. May or may not be magically related. You never know. So yeah. All right. We'll come back to that, and if anyone has questions in the chat about anything whatsoever, feel free to throw it in there, and I'll try to grab it as we go. I think this is dried enough that we can get into the creek just a little bit. Actually, I have some water in here I want to play with for just a second. Yeah. Okay. This water is very muddy. I'm going to hope that it's nice to me. We shall see. But I do try to use up as much of the previous paints as I can. I always feel bad when I have to waste paint. Okay. So we're just going to kind of darken up some of this stuff in here. Start to kind of muddy the waters, as it were. Ha ha ha. Pun, pun, pun. Sorry. I'm allowed one really terrible pun per stream. I've decided. It's a new rule. New house rule. I'm allowed one. You all can't stop me. Mwahaha. Just kidding. You probably could. You could all just stop showing up. That would be mean, though. Okay. I am very much a dork, though, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm an adorable dork. I'm like what happens when you grow up on Lord of the Rings and Star Trek. Like the old Star Trek. Give myself a 2. Oh, why? What do you think I was giving myself? That's a reference to something I didn't get, isn't it? I have a terrible memory for certain things, so, like, aim lower. One of my favorite shows, though, is Warehouse 13 simply because they reference, well, not just because, they reference like so many no, oh, I'm allowed 2 puns. Ah, okay. I see. This is what happens when I don't check the chat often enough. I miss like what we're talking about. Okay, so Warehouse 13 is one of my favorite shows because they reference so many different, like, I don't know if it really counts as pop culture, but definitely nerd culture stuff. So like Star Trek and Batman, like the old Batmans too, like the original ones, the stuff I would have grown up on because I'm older than I look. And then they'll be like, I think they made an Agatha Christie joke at one point, and there's just like so much stuff in there that, like, if you know, you know, kind of a thing. It's just so much fun. But on top of that, there's just so much history in there, and it's accurate history too. So like, if you have a background in history, it's just such a fun show to watch. It's just kind of a bummer that it didn't go on for very long, but back in ye old days, shows like that kind of just didn't go on for very long. We kind of didn't have like these extended seasons of 20 plus episodes that went on for like 15 plus seasons, you know, which is so cool that we get to have some of that stuff for so long. But that just, like, that was not the way, it's not how it was done, you know. They told their story in, you know, 3, 4, 5 seasons, and then they moved on to the next story, and we were sad and rewatched our 3 or 4 seasons of a show and called it a day. And let's not talk about Firefly. We don't talk about that. I'm still sad. Rewatching my one season over and over and over again. Tears. Okay. I am so happy with how that's turning out. Although I feel like I'm gonna need to go back in with some more paint later. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe just water. You never know. I always change my mind about things. Sometimes I'll be like, this needs more of that. And then later I'll be like, nah. And then the next day I'll be like, actually. And that's why it's sometimes good to sit with a painting before you finish. That's one of the reasons why I don't always post things until a day or two later, because this part's always awkward. I do sometimes want to just sit with it and make sure that's what I wanted. This part's too dark. And I just want to give myself a minute to be like, is this properly in perspective? Maybe. Maybe not. Because I do tend to make mistakes when I'm talking to people and trying to do this at the same time. And I just want to make sure that in the moment... Oh, maybe I'm washing that brush. Oh well, improvisation! I do need to get myself some new brushes so that I have tons of all the ones that I want. Once upon a time, I was like, I don't need 3 of this kind. I'll be fine with just 1. And then later I was like, oh, that's why artists tend to have multiples of the same brush. Durr. But then I never went back to the art store to like fix that. I just like dealt with it. Anyways. Sometimes you learn your lesson, but then you don't like fix it. And that's me. Okay. Because you forgot. ADHD, guys, okay? I can only make so many sticky notes. I think I need to let that dry for a second. Actually, maybe. Yes, okay. But I'm gonna do it with this one. That's the other thing, is I need a smaller one of these, and then I've just never bought one. Oh well. They're also consistently like out of stock too. They must be really popular. More water. I wonder why. I can't imagine they're like more or less difficult to get a hold of than anything else, but okay. Let's see. Just little bits of stuff going on here. I want to make it look like there's this kind of funky mist rising off of stuff, and I did put a little bit of this in there earlier, as you probably saw, but things tend to kind of dry very lightly on this kind of paper, so I want to make sure I'm going back in and darkening up the parts that I like darker, and then leaving lighter the parts that I like lighter. That way there's like a nice little variation of things going on, and then I can kind of like blend stuff out, lighten up some of these edges, maybe even blend in that water a little bit. It's gonna be fun. We got fun stuff going on. Mix some more paint up here. Painting. I think we've talked about cartoon before. It used to be on PBS. Childhood. It's funny how much like our childhood stuff affects how we do things now. I'm probably so silly when I paint because of how much I watch certain things. Like, I grew up on Bill Nye the Science Guy. When I was little, I really wanted to be Bill Nye. Like, desperately. I don't think I really understood genders very much, to be honest. We all have our thing. That was my thing. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna wash this out really quickly, and then we'll do another picture. No more pictures, just this one. Sorry. Actually, it's drying pretty lately. I might not need another. Okay. I know it looks like we're seeing like the trees kind of blurring out. Don't worry, these are just like my sketching where I want stuff to be trees. I put them lightly and kind of wonky on purpose because I just wanted to see where things would go. I don't really care that I'm accidentally blurring them out. Accidentally on purpose, right? Like I literally don't care. I just kind of wanted there to be a place to put things so I could see where things I wanted to be later. Like, it's totally fine that because it'll be much thicker and a different color later anyways. And if I go over them somewhere else in a different place, then, you know, that's totally cool because it can just be trees rising out of the fog, which is kind of fun. I like that image in my head. Okay. What time is it? Oh, that's probably fine. Okay. Ta-da! More color. All right. let that dry a bit, especially the sky, because I can't do rocks with the sky wet. Process. See, if this were like last week, I'd be switching projects right now. Let this one dry and switch to a new thing. Okay. Jar. Oh, well, we never really named the character. What would you like to name the frog? Let's name her. The question was, how did you name your character? And I actually didn't. I did name the ranger. The ranger was going to be based on the retired character Zirali. I think we talked about how I named Zirali. Zirali was named after a Persian shape-shifting demon because she's a changeling who was abandoned in the woods as a small child because she was taught to believe that she is the monster, and then was captured by high elves who used her abilities to hunt for them. So she was sort of like their minion, I guess. I don't want to use the word slave because that gets into whole cultural connotations with high elves and whatnot, because they see things a little bit differently. So we'll just go with minion for now. But yes, and then from there, she earned the term Elin Sian, which it means bright arrow in Welsh, and was actually a term given to a folklore hero, which was similar to the British Robin Hood. So she got that moniker because she was such a good hunter, using her bow and arrow. And it kind of works for her because she's a Fey Wanderer ranger, and they get kind of cool skills using their hunting abilities and whatnot. So, mind-searing magics, ha. I kind of liked playing her. Nobody ever got the names behind the names, you know? I always do that with certain characters, and everyone's always kind of like, really? Unpronounceable name, Chelsea? Again? Really? Seriously? But nobody ever looks it up and is just like, oh, I see what you did there. They're just like, really? How am I supposed to spell this? Zirali, pronounced with a Z sound, even though it has a C. Nerddom. Anyways, okay, we'll do one more. What race is this character? It's a frog. I haven't thought it through any more beyond that. Okay, I'm gonna cheat because I really want to talk about this a little bit while this is drying, and it's still a little bit wet. Okay, so I'm gonna roll a D4 here, pulling out these fancy new dice that I got. Because this is wet and I don't want to move it, you're sadly not going to see me roll a D4, so you're just going to have to trust that I'm not being a sneaky Pete. I literally have no... what's the word? Oh, my brain. I have no wins or losses attached to this. I know that's not the correct term I'm looking for, but whatever, we're gonna go with it. No strings attached to this for me, so literally no reason for me to cheat. So, I have a lore card here for me. I was hoping I'd pull lore from the jar, but I didn't. So we're gonna cheat and pretend that I did. So I'm gonna roll on the dice. And depending on what number we get, that's the lore we're going to talk about tonight. So yes, or you can pick one. So if I land on a 4, you, the audience, are going to pick which lore. So the lore options are, we can talk a bit more about Zirali. We talked about her name, but there's more lore attached to her. We can talk about these dice I'm using right now. We can talk more about the fairy tales. Okay? Woo! Okay, that one doesn't count. All right, so I'm going to roll it off to the side so they're not getting into the painting. Okay, I rolled a two, which was about the dice, which is actually perfect. Um, but if you want to hear more about any of the other things, by all means, throw it into the chat. Okay, so these dice that I have here are by Guinier. I don't know if any of you have heard of her before. She's a really cool dice maker. I'm going to put it into the chat. Literally, if you just Google her name, you'll be able to come up with her website. So I'm not going to put the website in there because it's a very easy website to find. So I'm just going to hold these dice here so you all can see. They have like these yellow flower inclusions. I think they're yarrow flowers. I could be wrong. And they also have snake shed and this kind of wool that's supposed to look like ash. And they're called the Cindered Fen, if I'm remembering that correctly. And I originally got them for, believe it or not, Zerali, because she's this Fey Wanderer Ranger who just loves the forest above all else, but she's lost in the Underdark. And so her memories, they're so beautiful. And I wish the camera were picking them up a little bit better. But because she's lost in the Underdark, her memories of the forest are fading. So they're kind of a darkened memory of those beautiful flowered forests. So that's why I picked them out. And at the time, I didn't know the lore behind the dice. And so what Guinier does is each of her dice is inspired by lore, either the lore of Dungeons and Dragons, kind of like how when I do paintings, or lore of stories she's played with her friends in different games, or lore of the homebrew that she's been writing with some of her friends. And so some of you might know that I've been trying to write my own homebrew story, and I've shared bits and pieces of it with you before when we did the Forgotten Temple. That was me. And so I've been trying to create like this one-shot cycle, and I've gotten kind of stuck on it because it was originally written as sort of like a thank you letter or sort of like a love song to a group of friends who taught me how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And unfortunately, we're not in each other's lives anymore. And so it's been kind of hard for me to finish the story that I started about a year ago. But then yesterday I received these dice that I had ordered, and I received this lore card. And I know it's not showing up particularly well on the screen. And so if you're on Instagram, you can see it a little bit better. But it reads, this section of the high forest used to be just like any other in this wood. A lush, deciduous, healthy forest where once there was moss, fern, and oak, now there is a hollowed marsh. An explosion of concentrated divine energy detonated here on several planes at once, creating a massive disturbance in the forces that uphold the planar separation. It goes on to talk about the side effects and how a group of druids are trying to contain them. I literally started crying when I received this, not in a bad way, please, tears can be good, because the story that I have been writing is literally about this blight that overtakes Neverwinter Wood, and eventually, yes, happy tears of I don't know, understanding, I guess. But this blight has been spreading from Neverwinter. And eventually they're sent to the Feywilds to try to stop this blight because they don't know what's causing it exactly, but they know it's bad. And so they're trying to find the source. Unfortunately, what they actually do is unleash this divine force of magic, chaos magic from the god Talos. And it does reverberate across multiple planes of existence and create something just really bad and chaotic and destructive. And now they have to work with a team of druids centered out of the high forest, believe it or not, to try to contain this percussive, destructive force that is Talos and his chaos magic. And I had no idea at all that this was part of the lore behind these dice when I got them. I knew there would be lore. I had no idea it was this. And that it would be so connected to what I had been already working on and kind of struggling with. So it was just sort of like this like small validation of something I had been working on. And I just think that's kind of cool that stuff like that can happen sometimes, and we all are just sort of on the same wavelength for a moment. Anyways, that's my rant. Okay. I know we're running a little bit over time here, and I haven't quite finished up these rocks the way I'd like to, but these are still a little too wet for me. Now the brushes are wetter than I'd like, but let's see if I can get some a little bit darker on these rocks here. Just a little bit of some shading, and then we'll call it a night for now. I was hoping for like a simple painting and it turned out to be much more complex than I initially thought, but that's okay. It's okay when things turn out to be a little bit more, I think. Sometimes those are like the best paintings. When you get like really fun stuff happening. And we got to talk a little bit about, you know, how it's okay to have struggles and work through that. And sometimes you get, you know, I hate to think of it as divine, but, you know, divine messages from the universe, so to speak, in the form of dice. The dice gods have spoken, literally in dice form. Sometimes you never know. Don't know if there is a dice god, but maybe he did speak today. You never know. Okay, I think this one needs to be like black. Oh yes, that's much better. Agreed, yes. Whether or not there is a divine force out there, and you believe there is one, I do think that we can get messages from anything and anyone, whether it's that moment you look at a billboard sign and go, you know what, I've got this, or, you know, that random message on Facebook or social media. You can use that to help you kind of figure stuff out, you know. It doesn't have to be a divine something. It can just be the everyday occurrences of life that help you go, ah, I am learning and growing, and that is totally fine. That if it's nothing more than that, no stress, you know. It doesn't always have to be bigger, badder, anything more than, you know, it's all good. Oh no, I did the Pete the Cat thing. It's on such a roll too. Dang it. It's fine. Just as long as it's not all good, right? Who was it? Cameron, was that you that said that Pete the Cat sounds like he's high? Who knows, maybe he is. Okay, I'm gonna blend this out a little bit more. This is definitely gonna be like a, oh, Pete the Cat. It's all good. We're back to Pete the Cat. Okay. This is definitely going to be a much more extensive project than I was anticipating. Sorry, guys. Was not prepared for this. For shizzle happens. Oops, that was a little too dark. I can blend that out later. I get on weird tangents sometimes. It happens. Okay, there we go. And sometimes I just switch accents for no reason. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that. I have thoughts about those rocks. All kinds of thoughts, but I want to see how the maybe if it was more of a straight line. We'll see. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let this dry, and we will come back to it tomorrow. Not we, me. I'll come back to it tomorrow and see how it goes. For now, though, we're gonna call it an evening. Thank you for staying so late with me while I talk about Pete the Cat and 10,000 random tangents. I think we're a little rusty. That's okay though. It was fun to chat. And we've got most of a swampy marsh going on. So yes, it was a good night. Alrighty, so we're gonna start to wrap things up here, get our ending slide going, and hopefully I will see you all next week with perhaps another fairy tale mix and match and twisted up kind of story tale going on. Remember to check out all of our new things going on throughout the week on Instagram. Hopefully I'll get YouTube updated tomorrow, fingers crossed. And of course the Etsy store is well on its way. So have a lovely weekend, you guys. Enjoy time with family and friends with the various holidays. And don't forget to feed your inner storytelling mimic. Have a great night, everyone.